Hey there, this is Amelia here. Welcome to Amelia's crossdressing story. Today we are going to share a story called Never Wanted to Be a Girl Part 8. By Teddy. For more interesting and exclusive stories, please subscribe to my channel and support me at Patreon. Jerry sent several letters to the school, and soon the principal made it very clear that harassment of anyone for any reason would result in immediate suspension or expulsion. He sounded really unhappy, as he was one of the adults that had been trying their best to make my life miserable. So I got the occasional freak, fag, or sicko comment, which was easy to ignore, and as time wore on I guess most everyone forgot that I wasn't really a girl. No, make that I wasn't physically a girl. Even Dad had started to treat me like his daughter, at least when he didn't think about it. Christmas was great. I guess Mom and Dad had carefully briefed all the relatives, but I got hugs from my aunt and uncle, and Grandpa gave me a beautiful silver necklace. My cousins said I was weird, and made disgusted noises when Tia and I spent a lot of time kissing. But what do you expect from a couple of tweeny boppers anyway? Tia and I celebrated our 16th birthdays in January. It was a great little party. We got only one present. All four parents pooled their money and bought us a car, which had the seat modified so I could drive in my heels. And we both managed to pass our driving tests by the end of the month. Jody brought Monty and gave me a leather skirt. Jody was wearing a full-coverage leather dress and Monty his biker's leathers, which got some funny looks from our parents. There was a second present I was not expecting. My driver's license said Samantha. And turned 18 in March, and 2 days later she and Chuck rented a cabin for the weekend. I guess he finally convinced her to spend the night with him. Mom fussed over her when she returned, with a contented smile and a funny walk. And Chuck's class ring. I can guarantee she had plenty of protection. Tia and I gave her a whole box just before she left. Tia and I were pretty much treated like sisters by our friends. And I guess most of our relationship was kinda like really close sisters. Except that we dated each other. There wasn't a lot happening in our lives, school was easy, and I was rarely bothered about being a girl anymore. I guess most people forgot. Or just didn't care. And announced just before graduation that she and Chuck were going to room together at college. They both had academic scholarships to the state university. Mom and Dad were able to provide enough money for her half of the apartment and some expenses. Chuck's parents covered the rest. At the same time, the insurance company finally settled with us over the accident. Most of the money went to a bonded medical fund that guaranteed I would never pay a cent for medical care the rest of my life. And neither would any member of my future family, if any. There was enough left over to set up a really nice college fund and fill a bank account for me to use as I saw fit. I did some calculations and realized how much it really was worth. Wow. But it still didn't make up for what the doctors finally concluded. Even with the stretching, a trip to the university's medical center came back with bad news. There was no way I could grow enough new tendon to walk normally. They could somewhat extend what I had, but the result would be weak. What I had now was super strong, just short. Tia and I spent a lot of time discussing this with both sets of parents and Dr. Nagel. And I cried a lot. But Dad was the one that finally got me straightened out. He pointed out that if he could learn to live with me as his daughter, I needed to quit throwing a pity party for myself, and be happy that as a girl I now had an excuse to wear kinky heels. I munched crow for a couple of days, and then visited Monty to order a couple of new pairs. And one for Tia. She complained they were way too high, and I pointed out that her feet could be stretched the opposite direction from mine. And since her feet were really ticklish, we spent a lot of that summer with our friends at the park. I no longer needed the crutches, except when it was slippery or I had to spend too long on my feet. And everyone agreed I had the most wicked walk of any girl in the school. Tia was jealous. One reason she agreed to getting herself a set of super high-heeled boots. Jody was due to finish off her work at the mall in September, which really bothered Tia. I was really surprised when Dr. Nagel and our family physician, Dr. Morrison, set up a joint appointment for Tia, me, and my parents just before school started. I was shocked to find the endocrinologist that had done a lot of blood work on me during that incredibly detailed physical was also present. Samantha, you have spent almost an entire year as a girl, and I think everyone here agrees that you really have no desire to return to being Samuel. I'm happy as Samantha. Besides, I really do fit in better, and my girlfriend would be really unhappy if I changed back. Tia gave me a hug. Do you remember the paperwork we did to get the school to allow you to attend as Samantha? I nodded. Part of what we started back then was called a real-life test. In official terms, that means that you are going to test drive being a full-time female for a year. A test you will, in a few weeks, have successfully completed. And you are now 16, which makes several more options available to you. Dr. Morrison took the lead. During that special physical your parents requested last year, we measured your hormone levels. And I have been tracking them during those quarterly physicals your parents have been making you get. Have you ever wondered why you still don't have a noticeable beard? Tia and I both nodded. You have a slight hormone imbalance. No enough to cause you any major problems, but enough to inhibit some of the effects of having a male puberty. The imbalance is definitely not enough to have any noticeable effect on your psychological makeup. But you are now old enough to consider whether want to begin the process of physically changing into a girl. I could feel Tia tense. Dad looked really unhappy. But only if you want to. Dr. Nagel says that she does not recommend that you undergo a sex change, but does not rule out other options. Tia was clinging to me. I don't want to become a girl, at least not where it counts. That I'm sure of. Tia tried to crush me with a hug. Someday we may want to have children, and that's, well, kinda impossible if things get cut off. The idea made me shiver. Besides, we both like what I have. I hugged Tia back and watched as both mothers made disapproving faces. So what other options do I have? The endocrinologist took over. Samantha, it is possible, by changing your hormone balance, to keep you from ever maturing further as a male. And if carefully monitored, we can ensure you remain fertile. The effects of hormone manipulation are very individual, but it may be possible for you to develop small, feminine breasts and change your fat distribution so you have a more defined waist, and larger thighs, hips, and bottom. Tia made some happy noises, and my father looked sad. If you were ever to decide to change back, the fat would redistribute itself naturally, but the breast and nipple changes would require surgical attention. Dr. Nagel broke in. Samantha, you don't need to decide immediately, but Dr. Morrison says you are showing signs that a late male puberty is beginning. And things like beards and heavy body hair are difficult and painful to permanently remove. Tia whispered something in my ear. I turned red. If I develop breasts, will they be as sensitive as a real girl's? Of course they will. It is even possible, in some cases, that you could lactate if additional hormones are administered. Dad turned sort of green, but Mom was nodding. She'd said nursing my sister and me was something she'd really enjoyed. Tia commented aloud, you keep complaining that the breast forms are just excess baggage on your chest, and that you wish they were all natural and as sensitive as mine. Her mom snickered, and her dad mumbled something that got her mom to whack him. How long would it take to, well, grow my own? Tia hugged me tighter. Somewhere between a year and never. You would almost certainly grow feminine nipples, but breast size is impossible to guess. Depending on your genetics and responses to the hormones, probably a size or two smaller than if you had been born a genetic female. I understand that your sister is rather well endowed. I nodded. But a lot hinges on your family history. Mom suddenly giggled. I'm bigger than and my sister and my mother, before she passed away, were downright huge. I thought of Aunt Susie. Dad had made comments about her typing a paragraph every time she bent over her keyboard, which had got him slugged by Mom. Then Samantha could wind up with a rather, well, striking figure. Tia whispered in my ear, think about my doing to you what I like so much when you do it to me. Things got awfully tight in my undies. What are the side effects? Dad seemed to want to find an argument against the idea. At Samantha's age, very few. A somewhat diminished sex drive, some initial mood swings, and a tendency to be more emotional. Thinner and more sensitive skin. Later, an increased risk of breast cancer. So she would need breast examinations just like any other woman. But this risk may be offset by a significant reduction in her chance to develop prostate problems, including cancer or heart trouble. Mom and Dad looked at each other, then at me. A reduction in sex drive? Tia managed to get it out softly. Like you mean she won't want to? The endocrinologist chuckled. If she chooses to go on hormones, she will probably experience a lot fewer unwanted erections. But with the proper stimulation, she will be able to achieve orgasm. It will probably just take a lot longer. Which may or may not be a problem. Tia wiggled her eyebrows at me. You mean no more of her falling asleep too soon? I turned bright red, and there was a general gurgling sound from our parents. I stood and pulled Tia to her feet. Unless someone can give me a better reason, then it would be hard for me to return to being a boy. I want to take that option. Tia kissed me, and all 4 parents went into conference. Dr. Nagel took me and Tia aside. Samantha, this is what I would have recommended, but I wanted you to make the decision entirely on your own. I think you will be happy with the results, even if you only grow a little. It was a few minutes, and a lot of questions from the parents to the different doctors later, that Dad finally decided it was really up to me. And I had already made my decision. I had, however, forgotten to ask how they administered the hormones. It was hard to walk or sit for quite a while. I got a bunch of harassment, again, from the school when I tried to register. Dad called Jerry, and we all went in the next day. The threat of a lawsuit and other dire consequences won. I felt great when a couple of other registering students and their parents told the school types to get a plunger and pull their collective heads out. That's all for now. See you in the next video. For more interesting stories, please subscribe to our channel, and for exclusive content, please join us on Patreon. Link in the comment.